Are you looking for your next TV show binge? You're listening to Is It Worth The Binge podcast. I'm your host, Karam McKay. Hi everyone! Welcome to the first episode of Is It Worth The Binge podcast. This is a show where I watch TV shows and give my honest opinion as to whether the show is worth binge watching or not. So if you're looking for your next show, keep on listening. Just to give a little background of how the show works, I'm basically going to be watching the first episode of a show, and then I'm just going to give my honest opinion about whether or not I think the show is worth the binge. So our first show is going to be Cursed, which is on Netflix right now. Just to give a little background information of the show, Cursed is an action fiction series where a teenage witch, Nimue, joins forces with a knight named Arthur to save her people. Now, once again, a quick heads up, I am going to be giving quick highlights of certain scenes in the show, so I might be skipping some scenes where it might not be as interesting and it's just giving a little background of characters, and I feel like it's not really needed. So I have some notes here on my Mac, and we're going to be getting into it. So first I'm going to start off with a little episode synopsis and what it's going to be about. Episode 1 is titled Nimue, and the synopsis is: scorned as a witch, a young woman with powers leaves her village to start a new life, just as a ruthless army scours the countryside for her kind. So, let's get into the first scene of the show. The scenery you can see is blue, the blue sea, the blue mountains, the blue sky, and just to take a few lines from the quote that's written across the screen, it's in white text by the way. It says, "The sword of power and a woman that had the power to use it. She was called a demon, savior." And throughout the scene, whispers can be heard. I can't really tell what the whispers were saying. It was very muffled, but whispers can definitely be heard. Next thing you know, we see someone fall into the water. They're hit with an arrow and they're bleeding and sinking. And we see a close-up of the girl's face, and I'm most likely guessing this is Nimue. So we go into the intro, and the intro is in fact animated. It kind of reminds me of an anime intro, like how it gives you a flash of the events that's going to happen in the anime. It kind of reminded me of that. The second scene, we find Nimue, the girl that was in the water sinking, shot with an arrow, walking into a forest, and she kind of sees like a flying flower. Is orange and red. Seeing this flying flower, I'm like, oh, so she's using her powers. And it kind of causes me to question, like, is she the only one of her kind in the village? Just because of how people talk to her. Like, everyone she came in contact with, except for the little boy, was mean to her. Like, they called her witch, they called her demon. Is she the only one of her kind in this village? And then she encounters a deer also while hearing some whispers saying, save them, and she looks confused as to like, what are these whispers? And these are the same whispers that can be found in the intro of the show, because as I said, you could hear whispers, but you couldn't hear what it was saying. But now in this instance, you can definitely hear them saying the word save them, and it's a male's voice, mind you. The next scene cuts into the mother going to a ritual. Basically, the ritual is their ancestors choosing who will take her place. Nimue is the next summoner, and Nimue doesn't like this at all. She doesn't feel like she's fit to be the next summoner. She feels like she doesn't have what it takes to take her mother's place. Cutting to the next scene, it cuts to a man in a red robe talking to a little boy. Basically, he touches a leaf to the boy's hand. And just judging by this, you can tell that he has magical powers. And the man that was talking to him, he said that we are doing, quote, God's work. And then it cuts to a village being burned down, people being killed. These people in the red robes are looking for people like Nimue. So we meet another character called Merlin. While in the castle, the king is asking him to make it rain. And then Merlin promises that yes, there will be rain. But then as he's leaving the castle, he sees these birds dead in the castle in a circle, similar to what Nimue saw earlier, but they weren't dead. They were flying in the sky. But they're in a circle, and then Merlin, he finds this to be a problem. He is concerned as well. Like, does it show that something sinister is coming? Like, what does these birds being in a circle show? The next scene cuts to Nimue with her friend. While they're at the market, seeing that there is this person singing, and it's a male. Him and Nimue make eye contact right away, and you can tell like they're already going to be the ship of the show. Like, you can already tell something is going to go on. We find out that he is a knight named Arthur. And then it cuts to Nimue and the knight. They're kind of like at this camp. They're having this like flirtatious conversation back and forth. Like, you can just tell they have this chemistry. Not gonna lie, I kind of shipped it. All of a sudden, she starts having these visions, these dark visions. And then next thing you know, it's like Merlin, he awakes with the same nightmare, with the same visions. So somehow you can tell that Merlin and Nimue, they are somehow connected. So then as Nimue is leaving the campsite, her and her friend encountered a horse that is on fire. The horse came from their village, like it was running away from their village. There's houses on fire, there's people running back and forth, and the red robes are there. So then Nimue, she goes to look for her mother, where she finds her underground. All of a sudden, she gives her this sword that's wrapped up in this cloth, and she says, you have to use this. This is what you're going to use to save everybody. Someone with a red robe comes in and kills her mother. Nimue runs out with the sword, and all of a sudden it starts raining. It starts raining, and there are these wolves that chase her through the forest. She picks up the sword, she starts to kill the wolves, and then it cuts to black. What is my final verdict on Cursed? Is it worth the binge? Honestly, no. For me, Cursed doesn't give me anything different. The plot isn't boring. It's just not enough for me to keep watching. That's the end of the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any show suggestions, any that you want me to react to or give my opinion on, you can email me at isitworththebinge@gmail.com. That will be listed below. Also, for the latest episode updates, you can follow me on all social media. Thank you for listening, and I hope to see you next time.